Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Angel from Simply Angel Tia. In this video we're going to be working on this short skirt here, and as you can see, it's not too short but it's not too long either. Very simple. We're not doing something too complicated. We're just literally doing something as simple as it looks. I mean, it may not look very simple, but it's very simple. We're using color that is predetermined colors like this. The yarn is, but of course you can use any color of your yarn. It could be one solid color, it could be stripes of color, it could be whatever you want it to be. And as you can see here, this was not the plan to add this off-white color here at the end, but when I finished the amount of yarn I had, which was just one ball of yarn, I thought it was still too short for my liking, so I decided to use some yarn that I had laying around, very similar to it, the same size, same texture, and I finished it off with this off-white color in the bottom like this. And as you guys remember, I will put a picture somewhere here. I did a top just a few weeks ago that I used this color here, crop top. So I figured using the leftover yarn from that to finish off the bottom of the skirt just looks really nice. And also it's something that I plan to wear with that top. So that crop top will kind of complement this skirt because I finished it up with the exact same color in the bottom. Okay, so this is what we're going to be working on. So go ahead and gather your materials. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, my lovelies, now before we get this project started, I'm going to show you all the materials that I need or that I'm using. Of course, you can have different ones than what I'm using here, but I'm going to always talk about what I use so you guys have a choice to either use the same or to just kind of use a different yarn, different size of yarn, everything all together. Okay, all right, so the yarn is this guy that you see here. This is a yarn that is about, what is it here, 200 grams. Okay, so 557 yards long. This yarn is by Loops and Threads and it's called Little Treasures. I've made a few things with this yarn before, so you guys are aware. It's a lightweight number 3. Recommended hook size is 4mm crochet hook or USG 6. Okay, the color is called blue maritime blue. Yeah, so it's called maritime blue, and this is pretty much the color that is done together here. I did a shawl, or may have already posted it by the time you see this video, but there's a shawl that I do with the same yarn but completely different type of colors here. And I have one more, I think, like this, that is completely different colors as well, that I will use for something else. But for this one here, we're going to be using it to do this nice cute short skirt, mini skirt, and whatever yarn we have left, we can do a top with it. But obviously I will see how much yarn I use for the top, for the bottom first. Okay, for size of hook, I'm using 3mm crochet hooks. As you see here, it's very small. It's not the recommended for this yarn, but I want my skirt to be a lot tighter. And actually let me put it this way. I'm using 2 hooks. I'm using a 3.5 for the body, and this is gonna be for the band. So I do the band in this because I want the band to be really tiny, and then when I do the body, I'm gonna be using the 3.5. Okay, I also have my darning needle here because it's needed for this project. I have some stitch markers that are optional in case you need them. I have a scissors and of course my tape measure as per usual. Okay, so I hope you guys have everything you need, but let's go ahead and get started. Okay, my lovelies, so I'm going to do this video a little bit different. What I did was I completed my rows for the band of the skirt first. And of course, I'm going to show you quickly how to do this. Very simple. If you guys watch any of my tutorials, you will find a lot of tutorials where I use this, whether they're for tops, whether they're for crop tops, for skirts, for pant, whatever it is. I use this stitch a lot, which is pretty much a back loop single crochet to create bands. Okay, the same thing when I do beanies and hats and things like that. This is how I do it. So as you can see here, this does take a long time to do, just because it's like you have to create a really long thing like this. And because of that, I have already kind of completed one, so I can come back and quickly show you guys how to do it. And you guys can pause the video when it's done to do that part, and then we move on to the next part of the project really fast. Okay, so again, I'm gonna quickly show you just a small sample here. So I'm gonna do my slip knot just like this, and I'm using my smaller hook, which is a 3mm crochet hook, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a slip knot like that, and then I'm gonna do a chain of 11. So this is a chain of 11 here for this band. to be like this, it's a chain of 11. Let me know if you guys like this style of me doing something like this first and then showing you how to do it, because I think it makes sense to see how it looks before you actually get working to it. And also for the sizing, the band can be done to any wideness that you want or narrowness that you want. So this is a little bit narrower than I usually do, but you get to see it before you actually do it. And if you think this is too small, you can always increase the number of chains from the get-go. Okay, so let's do our 11 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, this color here is going to be a little bit hard to see. Let me pull this and get to a point where this color changes to a lighter color right here. That way I can show you guys a lot easier and you can see properly, because that dark blue again is my black background here, will probably not show as well. So let's fix that by just using the lighter color here to show. Okay, so we're going to go back and do our slip knot like that. And then we're going to do our chain of 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 1. Okay, so that's how long it is here. Then we're gonna pivot it like this and hold this with me working with my right hand. I use my left hand to hold it, like my left hand, not hand to hold it like this. And I'm gonna skip this stitch right here where my thumb is pointing to, and I'm gonna go into this one here, but we're gonna go into the back of the second one there. Okay, like this, and we're gonna do a back loop single crochet, and this is how you do it right here. Okay, then you're gonna go into the next stitch, you're gonna grab the back loop, and we're gonna go ahead and do a back loop single crochet, and then we just do this for the remaining stitches, and at the end you should have 10 stitches all together. Okay, so go ahead and finish that. When you get to the end, come back and I'll show you how to start the second row, which is also the repeat row. Then I'll have you guys pause the video here and pretty much work on your band, and when you have the length that you want for your band, then you will come back so I can show you how to do the body of the skirt. Okay, but for now, just go ahead and finish this. Okay, so that is your first row here completed. Look how nice it looks. This is the back of it, if I can show you. This is the back of it here. Okay, there you go. And then you're gonna go ahead and start the second row, and by doing so you start by doing a chain 1 and turning, and then in the very next stitch right after that you're gonna go and grab the back of the stitch and do a back loop single crochet, and then you're gonna go into the next and do a back loop single crochet, and by this point you're working with 10 stitches all together, which is awesome because it's not too long and it makes the creation of the rows super fast. But you just go ahead and continue to do your back loop. Oops, let's not twist the work. Your back loop single crochets until you get to the end, and I go through both loops for the final stitch. So for the 10th, every time I go through, or whatever is last, it doesn't have to be the 10th because I don't always work with 10 stitches, but whatever is the last one, is 11, 12, 13, 15, whatever the case is, I end up going through both loops for that final stitch. As you can see here, this is my final stitch here. Instead of going through the back loop only, I'm going to go through both loops to do my final single crochet like that. So that's the end of my row 2. And then I will start row 3 by repeating exactly what I did in row 2. And then you just continue to do this until you have the circumference of the widest part of your hips when you stretch your band. When you stretch it fully as much as you can, that size should fit the widest part of your hips, or at least you should be able to come up the widest part of your hips very smoothly without giving you too much resistance. Okay, so instead of continuing to do this, I will just, obviously you repeat this to the end, and the last one, go through both loops, chain 1, turn, repeat. Okay, so we will undo this guy here because this is just a sample that I showed you. But if we go back to my actual project here, okay, this is pretty much the band that I have already completed. And as you can see, I left us a little bit of a hanging yarn here so I can use this to join the two sides together like this. Okay, So when I join the two sides like this band here is pretty much what's gonna go above my waist, because I'm gonna do this as a high-waisted skirt. And if I stretch it, it's very stretchy, but I want this to be able to come up the widest part of my hips. And the widest part of my hips is about 38 to 40, depending on the day. Depending on a day, give and take, there's an inch, 2 inches there that I cannot account for, but often I end up doing about between 38 and 40 inches. Okay, so this is it here. I have it. I'm not gonna count how many rows I did. It's a lot. So for those of you who ask how many rows I did, it doesn't matter much, because really it's gonna be based on how much you're doing to fit the circumference of your hips, of the widest part of your hips, or the person you're making these for. So asking me how many rows I did is absolutely useless in my opinion. But so I'm not going to count, because again, it's a lot to count here. But we're going to move on to the next part of the project, which is to join this part here. And then we're going to start to work on the body of the skirt. Okay, so I'm going to take my darning needle, and I'm going to take the little hanging chain that I left here, and I'm going to put it through that loop of the darning needle. And then I'm going to bring it close to you guys so you can see it like this. Okay, so hopefully it's not too bright for you guys to see. And I use natural light, so I often aim to use natural lights, because otherwise it's too dark, and it's and artificial lights change the color quite a lot, I realize, or I think. So I tend to use natural light like this. So right now there's a sun right above here where you see the screen is brighter here. The sun is coming from that side. But anyway, so I'm gonna go through both loops of the first stitch here, and both loops of the first stitch on the other side like this. Then I'm gonna pull. I'm gonna do that one more time and pull. Okay, and I'm gonna pull that as hard as I can to make sure that that's locked in. And then for the second stitch, I'm going to grab the stitch that is, or the loop that is closest to me, and I'm gonna grab the loop that is closest to me on the other side. Then I'm gonna pull. We're gonna make sure this doesn't stay like that. We're gonna bring it in, oops, like that. Then I'm gonna grab the next loop here and the next on the other side. And again, I'm using, if I grab the outside on this side, I'm grabbing the inside on that side. And you see what I'm doing here, okay? Again, the outside on this side, which is the closest to me, and the closest to me from the other opposite side. And then I just repeat this all the way until I get to the end of this section here. So go ahead and do the same, and I will see you guys when you have completed joining your band. Okay, so as you can see here, I have the final stitch here, which is on this side and on the other side, and I do the same as I did at the beginning, which is to go through both loops for the final stitch here, and I do that more than once, so I do it twice. Okay, and what this does is it kind of locks in that section there so that it's nice and strong, and it's not gonna kind of stretch my work here. And as you can see here, that's done, it's joined. I'm gonna remove my darning needle, but I'm gonna leave this guy hanging here, and that's pretty much it. So this is, well, not that's it, because the work is still it's not done yet, but this is pretty much the band joined together like this. Okay, and now I'm gonna bring in my 3.5mm crochet hook as I promised, so I can do the body of the work in that. And from here on, I'm going to pretty much do a chain of 1, and then on that stitch right next to it, I'm going to do a half double crochet. Okay, so I tend to use a half double crochet for things that are wearable, especially for bottoms, because you don't want it to be too see-through. And often when you use a double crochet or something like that, it does kind of create a see-through look to it. And then especially if it's a tight one, because we're working on a tight mini skirt here. Okay, you don't want it to stretch to a point where you can see what you have underneath. So I use a half double crochet because it's a nice tight stitch. Okay, so I do the half double crochets all around until I come back to this section here. And what I do here, as you can see, is I use this section here to be a stitch, and the section that goes inwards as a stitch. And so that way I don't have to worry about where I'm putting my hook for per stitch. Okay, because when I say do in the next stitch and the next stitch, technically there's not stitches that are very visible to a naked eye here. But if you go into the protruding section, and then the next stitch technically would be the next part that kind of dents in, then that's what I call stitches. Okay, so go ahead and do these all around until you come back to here. When you get back here, come back to the video and I'll show you how to do the second row, and then we will work on it a little bit offline, and then we will have some changes to make here and there. But for now, finish this row and I'll meet you guys when you get here. Okay, my lovelies, so I have gone ahead and completed the first row of the half double crochet for the skirt here. And as you can see, I'm right at the end. I just finished my last half double crochet here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that very first half double crochet we did, or the chain one actually, and complete a slip stitch. Okay, just like that. And what that does is it locks the two sides together so that we have a complete row like that. Okay, and then we're going to start by doing another chain one, and we're going to turn our work so we can work the other way. Okay, and then the reason why we turn two is so we can keep our seam in the same spot, because if we continue to work round the seam is going to start moving and eventually will be like this on the skirt, and we don't want that. Then we're going to go ahead after our chain one and turning, we're going to go ahead and do a half double crochet in the very next stitch right after that, and then in the next, and then in the next. And we're going to do this all the way around as well, just like we did the first row. And when we get back here, we will slip stitch, and then we will do a chain one, turn and repeat. So this row that I'm showing you guys here is a repeat row. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I want you guys to do, because I will not come back on video to show you guys how to do it, but it's pretty much how to increase in case you are to need to increase your the wideness of your skirt. Okay, so let's say you work on this and you realize maybe it's too tight here. You want to make it so that the waist is a little bit snatched in, but it's going to start to work outwards like that. All you will need to do is determine how much you need to increase, and you'll start to increase by pretty much doing 2 stitches per in every couple of stitches. You will do 2 stitches in one. So I'll show you how. So let's say this is where I want to increase, the next stitch is where I want to increase. I will pretty much go and do a half double crochet, then I'll go back into the same stitch and do a half double crochet. So I just increase here, and then I will move on to the next stitch and work a half double crochet in that stitch, and then depending on how I increase, I will continue to do it like that. And then when I get to the increase row or increase stitch, I will do the 2 half double crochets in the same stitch. Okay, now I'm saying that because I don't know how this is gonna look exactly. I want to make it look so that it's not extremely tight, it's not like hugging me a lot, but I wanted to make it so that it's nice and tight. So what I will do is I will do, let's say 5 to 10 rows without increasing, and then I will see if it's gonna end up being really tight. And if I see that it's gonna end up being too tight, what I will do, or how I usually end up increasing, is when I do my chain one and turn, I will count 10 to 15 stitches that I just do the regular half double crochet, and then in the 16th, let's say, I will do 2 half double crochets in the same stitch, then count 1, 2 all the way to 15. On the 16th, I do 2 half double crochets in the same stitch, then count 15. The 16th, I do the same, and I continue to do that. Okay, and if for some reason at the end, let's say you have 10 stitches to go, so not quite 15, you have 10, you will just continue to do that 10 as normal, and then you will slip stitch, turn, and then repeat that for a couple of rows. So for me, I would probably do about 5 rows of continuing to increase in that way. And then when I get to, and then after the 5 rows of increasing, I will stop, and I'll just continue to go back to doing my half double crochets the exact same way. Okay, so I'm explaining it to you here so that if you do need to increase, that's how you would increase it. But if you don't need to increase, then you just continue to do your half double crochets the same way that I have done here, and you just continue to do it until you have the length of your skirt. So however long you want it to be, or you will stop when you think the length is good for you. Okay, so I will do mine to just go a little bit above my knees, so that it's comfortable and not too short, but it's comfortable enough that it's gonna cover me enough that I don't feel like I'm walking naked on the street. Okay, so I'll do it so that it goes right above my knees, and I will stop. I will come back to you guys to show you how it looks like. Okay, but for now, just continue to work on your skirt until you get your length. I will see you guys in a bit. Okay, my lovely. So finally, I have finished this project. I've been holding on to this for quite a while. Other projects came and left, and this one, I just kind of sat on it for a little bit, but I finally just sat down and finished it. Now, as I started this, started this skirt, I had just the one ball of the yarn to use, and as you can see, I finished the whole yarn. It got to where I finished it. This skirt, because it is a mini skirt, it could have been used like that, but I thought it was just a tiny bit too short for me. So I went ahead and got another yarn that was left over from another project. I don't know if you guys remember. I'll put the top here. And it's also the top that I'm going to be wearing with this skirt. But I had some leftover yarn from doing that crop top, and this is what I ended up finishing the bottom of this skirt with. I think it goes really well because if you see, there's this color section of this variegated yarn that is everywhere here, and I think it looks nice to kind of finish it off like that. But yeah, this is pretty much done. I'm gonna obviously go ahead and weave in my ends here, and where I change the color between this color to this off-white color. So I'm gonna weave that in. I'm gonna weave the beginning here of as well, and that's gonna be the end of the project. So there's not much to be done here. Very simple skirt. I will probably end up finding, I know I have a little bit of this left, so I'm gonna do a strap so I can put that on the skirt, the beginning of the skirt on the band. In case I want to wear it a little bit tight, I can pull it tight. But just trying these on now, this fits me really, really well on the waist here because it is done so that it can fit really well. And then because I have wide hips, as you can see here, it fits my wide hips as well, and it is just a decent size that is appropriate for the length as well, not too short and inappropriate. Okay, all right, well, I'm gonna pretty much end the video here because there's not much to be done. The skirt is done, so I'm gonna end the video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it took me a while to finish it, but you will not know any difference. You will not know any difference on the video because I pretty much pick up where I left off, but it took me about 3 months to, not to work on it, but I put it on the side for the last 3 months, and then now I'm picking it up again. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video to the end, and I hope you guys will try these and make one of these for you, for your friends, for your loved ones. And please share the video. Please subscribe if you have not yet done so. Please like, and let's go ahead and talk in the comment section below. If you have anything, we can discuss there. Okay, all right, see you guys in my next one. Bye.